Are you someone who hates the idea of a fast or cool sounding car? Do you commonly find yourself making shallow decisions seeking the worthless admiration of unknown public bystanders? Do you daydream about hearing 40-plus-year-old women telling you that your vehicle is sharp, snazzy, and cute, but you've got less than $20,000 to spend because you're a broke person like me? Well then, this is your type of video with 10 of the best looking cars you can get for under 20 grand. Let's get into it. Attention, Liberty Drives is not ethically or financially responsible for a lack of improved social acceptance results from renting, purchasing, and/or driving any suggested vehicles here. Viewers should first consider common safe practices for developing friendships, such as leaving your home to see people, talking to people instead of just your car, getting a girlfriend, and getting out of crippling debt. Please consult your doctor and common sense advisor before thinking of any new dangerous hobbies, taking out vehicle loans, or attempting to enter romantic relationships with men or women twice your age. If you're thinking, hold up, I don't have $20K for a car, or I only care about sound, then check out my best looking cars under $10K or best V8s under $10K. Same as usual, I only looked at dealership cars with no accidents and under 90,000 miles within a decent distance of me. Also, let's take 5 seconds to appreciate the cars that didn't quite make the list because they were too expensive or ugly. I generally put the better ones towards the end, but there's no strict specific order, and first up is the Saturn Sky, priced between 15 and 20 grand. This one will probably be the most controversial. When I made the list, it was very, very, very close between this and the 06 to 14 Chargers, but it boiled down to what other cars are on here. Compared to the other sedans for the price, purely based on looks, I don't think the Chargers would compare well enough for most people, and the newer ones cost a little too much. Whereas the Saturn Skies look a little bit more updated and they're a little more different than the other cars. The good news about these is that they only weigh between 2,900 and 3,100 pounds, but the bad news is that 2/3 of them came out with only 180 horsepower.
Oh, look at you, a little tiny toilet for a little tiny baby. Ah!
Thankfully, that's enough for the weight, and the Redline trim comes with 280, but I also shouldn't be talking about these stats because it's all about looks here. Based on the back alone, this wouldn't have made the cut, but in my opinion, the front and quarter views are pretty good. It's not bad. Compared to other coupes in this price range, mainly C5s, the very similar Solstice, and even JDMs like the 350Z and BRZ, I think these fit pretty well. Second is pretty much the opposite of the Sky, and it's the 08 to around 2014 Dodge Challenger V6s. Staying under the 20K price means RTs and facelifted Challengers are probably out of the picture, sadly. The V6s in these were bumped up to 305 horsepower in 2011, but before that, they only made 250 and hit 60 miles an hour in a high 7-second range. So trying to impress anyone on a first date with the acceleration of this would probably be an unfortunate surprise, let's call it.
Well, prepare to have your mind blown, little lady. Ta-da.
Bruh.
These might look slightly outdated compared to the newer ones, obviously, but they're still good-looking cars. They were one of the first modern cars with this classic muscle style, and as long as you don't put claw marks on both of the headlights, they can look pretty cool or mean. Ooh, I should have not gone there. Third for today is a more basic car, and it's the 14 and newer Cadillac CTSs for $17,000 and up. These aren't all jaggedy and mean like most of the cars I normally talk about, but I think they've got a good balance of sporty, modern, and high-quality looks. They're also definitely not as mean as the V3s, but they're not as bubbly as most cars on the road, and they come with what I think is a really awesome interior. I was surprised to find these for under 20K, but I guess I'm still trying to get used to the fact that cars from 2014 are already 9 years old. And speaking of old cars, next is the oldest one on here, and it's the 98 to 02 Firebirds with the WS6 package, which I also found as low as 17K. Some of you guys might have not wanted cars this old, but besides one of the other cars here, these are the only oldish ones, and I think they're too good looking not to add as more of a toy option. I mentioned Firebirds a little while ago in the $10,000 video, but that was only including the not as good and pre-facelifted versions. With a 20K budget, you won't be able to buy any mint ones from a dealership, but I cheated a little bit on these because I wanted to add them so badly, and I used both dealership and good Facebook Marketplace listings because of the age. The backs don't look all that great, and maybe the interiors aren't great compared to the other cars here, but with that crazy dragon look at the front, these are probably one of the best looking American cars from before 2010 in my opinion. And with a nice V8, they can sound really bad. Damn it, I can't talk about the sound. Next up is another Pontiac, and it's the G8 from 08 and 9. The prices of these surprised me too, because the least expensive V6s I was seeing were around $13K, and even some V8s were starting at $18,000. Again, they were all in good condition with no accidents and low miles, and with all that, I thought the V6s would have been more like 17 and the V8s would be 25 to 30. Considering most Chevy SSs cost more than 40 grand, these are probably the coolest looking, potentially best sounding 20 grand American muscle sedan you can buy. And even though I'd only buy one of these if it was a V8, it's still cool to see any trim of them on the road. A car that probably a lot of people were expecting is the C5 Corvette. I feel like besides certain angles at the back and with a lowered, slightly widened, touched up look, the fronts of these C5s usually look better than the rears. When I first added these, I thought the backs might be better looking than the front, but I'm pretty sure that was only with the Z06 styling. Nothing about him is super in your face, but with small things like a front splitter, rear diffuser, and a small rear lip, they are great looking budget sports cars. Number 7 is the 2010 to 14 V6 Mustangs. The fronts of these are not bad, but with the V6 versions of the pre-facelift ones, they're a little too Miata smiley for me, you know? Where these really take the cake though is at the back.
I was like, damn, what you doing out here with all this ass? Double cheeked up on a Thursday afternoon, hella ass.
The 2010s had the same 210 horsepower 4-liter V6s as the 05 to 09 Mustangs, and after that year they put in 3.7s to up the pony count to 305. Personally, I think the 4.0s might sound a little better, but it's kinda hard to argue with that much of a power bump and costing between 15 and 20K from what I saw. These have a decent balance of speed and looks for the price. For the third to last car, we've got the 18 and newer Buick Regal Sportbacks. I admit I'm cheating a bit with these two because the cheapest ones near me are pretty much 20K, but those only have less than like 50,000 miles, so it's a sweet deal in my opinion. And they're actually like 19,500 bucks, so it definitely counts. These come with 250 horsepower turbo inline 4s that are paired with front wheel drive or all wheel drive. There's also a GS version that's got a 310 horsepower V6, but I only saw those for more than 30 grand. I look at these as similar to the CTSs, where they're obviously much more modern looking, and that's a big part of it, but they also just look sporty and cool with today's standards. The back's pretty normal, but I think the front is mostly where it's at, and it's definitely good enough for the list. Next is the final member of the Muscle Coupe trio, the 5th gen Camaro V6s. More specifically, I'm talking about the facelifted ones from 2014 and 15. For the V6s, the updated fronts are definitely better, but at some angles, both rear ends are good, but I'm not 100% sure which one I like more. Where I think these fall short, though, is the interior, and I'm not going to be someone who's like, the visibility's so bad, you won't be able to drive it, the windows is too me. The wheel and driver gauges are fine, I actually like them, but I've never been a fan of the center cluster with how they set up the radio and those gauges. And this is an easy fix, but the shifters that come stock in these, frankly, are a nightmare. But out of the 3 V6 muscle cars from these years, these and the Mustangs are pretty much equally as quick, and as far as the outside looks go, I personally like the Mustang slightly more, but they're both good looking. The final best looking car for under 20K is one that some of you might not have expected me to talk about. It's the 2005 Ford Ka. Oh shit, wait a second, I read that wrong. It's actually the 2013 to 17 Ford Focus STs. And honestly, that works out, because at first I thought it was the Ford Ka, but according to Auto Trader, it's a Ka like cat. The more you know. The 13s and 14s are good looking, but I think these got a lot better with their 2015 facelift. The lines got a little sharper, they brought out the bottom of the front bumpers more, and the backs didn't change that much, but that's fine. I saw a good amount of these between 18 and 20,000, and for anyone not against hatchbacks, I feel like these are a great option for a fun daily. Beyond the looks, it's got 250 horsepower and a 3,200 pound car, good MPG, and a great base for looks and performance modding with a lot of stuff online. Let me know which of these you think is the best looking, or if you saw any of these cars and are now convinced I'm blind. Also, let me know what videos you want to see. Tossing a blue thumb over is always appreciated, and feel free to ask me any questions in the comments or on Instagram. As always, thank you guys all very much for watching. I appreciate every single one of you. I'll see you all in the next one. Have a great day.